go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is our January 24th, 2025 SEDA COG MPO board meeting, first one of the year. So thanks everyone for joining us in person in the room here and online. And if you want to start the recording or that's just kind of your warning. That helps us for recording for the minutes. And if you're participating, your consent is implied here in today's meeting. So thanks for already starting that. Just in kind of the interest of time and all, we will only do introductions of new guests. If it's your first time attending a meeting of the MPO, we'll go ahead and do that kind of introduction here in a moment. But just to identify for in the room, we have myself, Steve Herman, SEDA COG Transportation Planning Program Director, Tina Heitzelman, Program Assistant for the Transportation Planning Program, John Del Vecchio, standing as proxy for Sean McLaughlin, Union County today. Thank you, John. Greg Molter from Montour County, Justin Batchick from PennDOT Central Office, Steve Gibson from Clinton County, Brad Kerstetter, Indiana County, Don Keel, SEDA COG, Kristen McLaughlin, SEDA COG, and Brian Funkhauser, consultant from Michael Baker International. That's our happy team here in the room for today. And we'll just open it up. If there's anyone joining online, if this is your first meeting, or if you want to introduce yourself, feel free. And I think we did have a guest. If you could identify yourself just for the minutes and the records, please, the person that logged on as guest. We'll pause for that.
This is Morgan Rizicki with Rockland Planning and Michael Baker. My computer audio is not working, so I'm just using the dial-in.
Okay, thanks, Morgan. Anyone else online?
Good morning, Jim Roman, PennDOT District 2 Traffic Operations ITS Manager.
Thanks, Jim.
And following suit, Frank Cavateo, PennDOT Central Office, TSMO Planning and Funding.
Thank you, Frank.
Good morning, Joe Lyons, Traffic Engineer for PennDOT District 3.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, thank you for that. Our first order of business, as typical for MPO meetings, is the public forum, and that's essentially for anything that's not on the agenda that anyone would like to present, or if there's anyone from the public that would like to initiate a discussion at this time. Is there any public forum to be brought to the floor? Okay, thank you. Hearing none. Our next is item C, that's the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on November 22nd, 2024. And then we look for a motion if everyone's had a chance to review those to approve.
So moved.
Greg, thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brad, for the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Other normal customary business up front is item D. That's our normal TIP modifications, those administrative actions, some of the lesser changes occurring to projects on the TIP. And then in this meeting, we do have 3 amendments in District 3. Those are on pages 15 to 16 of the packet for those of you looking in the room or following online. But since District 2, we typically handle first. Mark Schultz, we'd like to ask if there's any you want to highlight from the District 2 adjustments, which run from pages 10 to 14 of the packet.
Thanks, Steve. Just a couple quick, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Just a couple, we start off with our amendments. We're looking at completed phases and other fund sources that have been brought to the MPO region through Protect Funds. Protect Funds has been a good resource for us to help support a couple of our road slope stability projects in a number of our areas. And that program is open again, would encourage any kind of interest in resiliency and infrastructure needs for Protect to bring it to our attention. It's something we can discuss and move forward with trying to utilize and capture more Protect funds within the SEDA COG region. Probably one of the biggest pieces that I had in the administrative actions would be on, I believe it's page 11, is at the bottom of page 11 would be for the use of the local bridge reserve line item that we worked with SEDA COG and District 2 to set aside funds specifically for local bridge needs. Logan Township has a bridge need with T349 over Fishing Creek. We're able to utilize those funds along with a local commitment of matching funds to initiate the design, the preliminary engineering phase of that project. So we've talked about that in the past, but I noticed that was in the administrative actions there as well. Other use of reserve line item funds has been for group resurfacing jobs and incorporating work from the tip into those group resurfacing jobs. We have utilized some of those funds to make improvements to the SR 35 roundabout in Mifflin, in Juniata down near Mifflin town, as well as some resurfacing on some spurs in that area. We're also going to utilize those funds for work on 522 Walnut Street in Lewistown area. It was an area that was not captured as part of a previous betterment and resurfacing type project in those use of the reserve line item funds. Other than that, most of the other areas in administrative actions are updated estimates and use of available funds. So if there are any questions, I'd be open to that.
Great, thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark on any of the adjustments provided in the packet? Okay, if there are none, again, thanks, Mark. Just an informational item. These don't require a vote of the MPO since they don't rise to the threshold of being amendments. So you kind of see all the adjustments occurring there. And as Mark said, with updated estimates as they work through the process. And thanks for capturing all those. And we did have the tip modification web map. We shared that link with the packet on Tuesday. So if you have a chance today or in near term, if you haven't looked at it, you can go in there and click on the points for each of those tip projects that are actions here on the packet items. The amendments were not mapped there, just kind of the way the information was. And since we're without Bryce Buxton, he had departed in November, we had our part-time GIS employee preparing that this time. So we'll continue with that supplemental resource, that visualization for the adjustment for the tip web map. But we did include again here in the packet. You all received that link. Hopefully everything worked okay for the packet transmittal on Tuesday for the PowerPoint guide presentation. This is something we've started doing just to highlight a table here with the major project changes, those that are maybe $400,000 or above, or if they're amendments. So if you click on the project status report link here, that will take you to PennDOT1 map. You can see the basic details on it, when the project's likely to have bid openings and such as well. There's a map embedded there. And then we also include the Google Street View now as well. This kind of came out of our strategic plan process last year to have this additional representation and get people acclimated to the projects that are being modified or where they exist within the region. So again, calling out those with higher values, changes, or amendments within this table. And as indicated, there are 3 amendments in District 3. We'll start on page 15 and run to 17. So we have those as the next items up. Chris King, if you're able to unmute and highlight the amendments here for the group.
Yep. Can you hear me, Steve?
Sounds good, thanks.
The first amendment is an amendment for a new project. It's essentially we're going to be paving 2nd Street in the city of Sunbury. This is a local federal aid route. Our municipal services unit's been coordinating with the city to essentially flop responsibilities. We would take this permanently as a state route, and we would give the city Catawissa Street, which is currently SR 4006. So our project development's moving along a lot faster than the turn back process, but that's the long-term plan. So this would be a new project. We have a couple others in the city that this would be let with on routes 405 and 61 coming up in another year or so. Again, this is a new project to pave 2nd Street. The second amendment is a new project which is being funded with regional safety funds, and it is recently approved for those funds. It's a southbound right turn lane into County Line Road in Union County. If you're all kind of familiar with that, that's the kind of coming out of Northumberland. And then the third action or third amendment is along with the first project I talked about on 2nd Street, another project to be let with those Sunbury projects is the replacement of sidewalk and failing hand railing along Route 405, previously Route 147 there in Sunbury. This is the section at the close to the Northumberland Bridge over to the island, goes under the railroad by the old Celotex plant. So that's a section through there. The sidewalk's kind of elevated and there's like a pipe railing on it that's collapsing in bad shape. So those are the 3 amendments for the district. Did you want to act on those first, or did you want to talk about any of the actions, Steve?
We'll entertain these first and questions that anyone
Okay.
has on any of the 3
Sounds
projects.
good.
I guess one question maybe I had about the Sunbury projects. Obviously, there's probably benefits of TA set aside projects that everybody recalls. They're along Front Street as well, with pedestrian flows.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes sense. But I don't know if you or Justin Scabry, if there's any update from the city's end on kind of that Celotex site adjacent and maybe the traffic impact study or analysis related to that. I don't know if any of that's been flowing through your office as well, or if Justin's surprised of that.
I can't speak to that at all. I don't want to put, but I will, Joe Lyons on the spot if he knows anything about TIS for that area.
No, we haven't had anything come through the permits unit for us to review on that development.
Okay, thank you.
Joe.
Sure.
And then just to hit for members, the County Line Road turning lane, that's been kind of a priority crash cluster that's popped up for a while. And we looked at that through prior road safety reviews, for the MPO area as well. So I think there'll be benefit there. And there's still, I think, a number of folks that use that and go up over the mountain, the hill on County Line roads.
Yep.
Turning lane. Any other questions from members at all on the 3 amendments that Chris had highlighted? If not, we typically vote on these individually, but then we'll do a blanket submission for the East Dip amendment process. So if there are no further questions or commentary, we look for a motion to approve the amendment on page 15 of the packet for the 2nd Street and Front Street project that Chris had highlighted. So moved. Greg, thank you for the motion. Do we have a second? Second. John, thank you for the second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thanks. Proceeding along, page 16 is the rate turning lane on the County Line Road that Chris had highlighted for us. Do we have a motion to approve that? Motion. Thank you, John, for the motion. Do we have a second? Second. Great, thank you for the second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, and the third amendment, page 17, for the handrail and sidewalk project on SR 405 as well. We have a motion to approve that amendment. So moved. John, thank you. Do you have a second? Second. Greg, thank you for the second. Say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Great, thank you for entertaining those three amendments. We'll properly act on those, and then those will come through as confirmations like the Logan Township Bridge that Chris highlighted earlier. There'll be amendments showing on the next March meetings, adjustments for you and on the web map at that time. The rest of the District 3 actions run page 18 to 17, kind of a lot of project estimate updates and cash flowing as well, but others that you'd like to highlight from that list, Chris?
There really aren't any that I would highlight. They're all pretty minor, just small cost increases on various pre-construction phases for the most part. But if anybody has a specific project in there they're interested in, just let me know and I can speak to it. But they're fairly minor accounting maneuvers, I would say.
Chris, I just have a question for Montour County, page 19, middle of the page. You indicate that there is money set aside for a study of the 254 intersection. If you could, please, what kind of study is involved and what's the intent?
So there is, for folks that aren't familiar with that area, there's, this is where Route 54 and 254 intersect. There's two bridges essentially right next to each other there, and they are, approaching the end of their lifespan. And from a hydraulic standpoint, everything is really low in there. And then from a traffic standpoint, how you would maintain traffic working through there, it's just and there's also a lot of pedestrian movements through that area. It's very complicated from a design standpoint. And in order to get an understanding of what sort of project that's going to be, we need to do a lot of upfront work, I guess I could say, if that helps explain it. But mostly traffic and hydraulic study.
Would we be kept abreast of the study as it goes forward so that we may have some input?
Definitely. Yep. I'll make a note to that too.
Appreciate
And
that.
if you have anything in advance that too, that we can, because there's not a consultant yet or anything. It's infancy, but it's been targeted as a future kind of big deal project. So anything that you might have, if you could send our way in advance, would be great, Greg.
Understand. Since the inception of those bridges, when they were put in many years ago, flooding has been an issue in that area. And I think a lot of it is due to sedimentation that has built up, taking it from possibly a 60-foot opening down to maybe 30 foot. And during intense rain, we've had many times that area is flooded. So I'm glad you're going forward with the design part of this. Just would like to have input as we go forward.
Sounds good. Yep, definitely noted.
Thank you.
Chris, if I could, this is Bob Stout. I know that pedestrian connection from downtown Washingtonville out to the Burkholders Farm Market past that intersection is something that's desired. If you could copy me in on that as well, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. And we also there is a community to the west of that intersection that relies on the other bridge to get to the borough and the market.
Yes, sir. Low income community out there. Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate it, Chris.
Yep.
Thank you, Greg, for that question. Yeah, a high value project, multiple impacts. Thanks for the comments, and thanks, Chris, for following up and for plugging in local needs that have been identified there. So definitely more to come as that study proceeds, and then that'll be a major cost for the next tip update we'll be discussing throughout the year as well for those projects. And something related, I think adjacent, Washingtonville Borough, I believe, is interested in maybe eliminating some of the parking lanes there and addressing some of the traffic issues and speeding just through the borough. Washingtonville on Route 54 as well. So other kind of, related interconnecting issues there too. Any other questions from members about the actions in District 3? Okay, thank you. Again, those are informational, since there's no approval necessary for the MPO. Anything else, Chris, before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thanks. Page 28 of the packet is just an informational item as well, the statewide interstate managed tip and some adjustments that have occurred there. Are reflected, those looking at the print, it's kind of small just because of the width of these file sizes, but if you're looking at the online version, the link, you'll probably be able to see that more closely, but interstate projects that were adjusted due to the flex for the transit funding that was needed, to resolve issues. If you recall those news stories, so that's included. Then page 29, just our listing of projects previously approved that are still working through the process. The Industrial Park Road in Selinsgrove Borough, they got some additional money from PCD multimodal, and we updated, I think the left date there was the highlight in bold. That estimated left date is September 11th of 2025. So, then the other project, the Milton, has been hung up to other issues as we've discussed in the past, and we saw a separate TA set aside project there, but the cost has just gone through the roof on that project. So any updates or questions from members on that listing? Okay, well then, we're moving on to item E. That's our typical updates on the CSBT, the Central Susquehanna Valley Transportation Project, and the State Route 54 Safety Project status report. And that's Chris as well. And then within the packet, we have some of the summary bullet points that Chris was kind enough to provide to us as well. Here you have those in the text here as he highlights those.
So in terms of Danville, the notice to proceed for the contractor to begin work is scheduled for Monday, 127, which would be Monday. The low bid plus engineering and inspection costs is just shy of 33 million. The contractor is New Enterprise. So, from the district standpoint, it's a good bid and a good contractor. I would, from my end, probably done with updates for the near term, and until we have some construction activities underway, we can keep you updated on how that project's progressing. Anybody have any Danville comments before I go to CSVT?
Just,
We don't-
Chris, just looking at, where the project may begin, which end, at the 642 east end or at the 642-54 west end?
Yeah, it's really too early to know that. The contractor will have to submit their schedule as part of the work they're going to do this winter. So that's all kind of to be determined. I think we provide, rough idea how that should work, but to speak to exactly how they're going to go about it, we'll probably have to wait a few months.
Okay, if we could be just updated when we get some idea of where and
Sure.
when they're going to, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. In terms of CSVT, southern section, our contract for earthwork is essentially completed. There's just some final documentation and payments being done, but all the embankments are completed. As I've talked before, Park Road and Colonial Drive, they were completed last fall. Fisher Road's open, and the roundabouts are all fully open. For the bridge or structures contract, the Granger's Road Bridge is essentially done. Cortland Drive structures basically done. The 61 connector ramps that connect to 11 and 15, they're pretty far along. They're going to be putting the barriers on them this spring. The 11th Avenue bridge, the deck will be placed this spring. The Stetler Avenue, the beams will be set this spring. The noise wall foundations are done along near Granger's Road. They're working on the posts and the panels essentially now. For the bridge that'll carry CSVT over the 61 connector, they're working on the abutments. Works just started for Park Road and Attic Road bridges. Overall, there's 9 bridges and 4 noise walls in this southern section structures contract, and they are scheduled to be all done by the end of 2025. And then for the paving contract, the final plans are preparation are ongoing. Right-of-way acquisition is still ongoing. Again, it's minor strip takes, just a lot of them. Utility coordination's ongoing. Same with permit prep. Still targeting the end of this year or early 26 to let that contract, and main line is still anticipated to be open in 2027. There's going to be a lot of activity still underway once the main line's opened in terms of connecting to Sunbury with Route 61, and that'll take another year before that section's open. That's all I had, Steve.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate those highlights and summary updates for the CSVT project, proceeding along quite well. Any questions on that from the members? Okay, thank you, Chris. We'll head on into item F next. That's our Unified Plan Work Program Staff Activity Report. I'll just summarize a couple items here. We have several that are listed within there that are agenda items a little bit later on. But this begins on page 31 of your packet with our typical reporting. I'll just note there at the bottom, page 31, the TIP update, or an odd number year now, 2025. So that means there's a lot of activities for updating the TIP. We'll be initiating, more to come a little bit later on the local bridge prioritization agenda item, setting up those countywide meetings. But we're part of the financial guidance work group for the state. They had their first kickoff meeting this week. We're in that conversation and taking a look at some of the major programs, some of the assumptions for allocations that'll be provided to all the planning regions and broken up equitably for the most part there, based on a number of factors, population, lane miles, traveled, ADTs, things like that. So we'll continue to give updates. Also, the State Transportation Commission, usually in February, they issue their statewide performance report. So we'll see that. And then that companion piece with, as Brian knows well, the public survey and the opportunity for folks to go out and respond on priorities and actually drop pins on a map for projects they want to see considered. And we'll receive all that throughout the spring months, report back more to the members on that, and continue to build toward the middle of next year is when we would look to get adoption of that 2027 tip for the region. So more certainly to be coming, a lot more coordination, and appreciate all your involvement in that and make sure it reflects local needs. Page 32. Okay, I'm highlighting there, sorry. Just moving along within this document, since we have several updates. Page 34, I want to touch on the multimodal projects. Obviously, those are of keen interest to our members and local governments. The PennDOT multimodal applications were due in November. We'll receive those applications. We're aware of several that were being worked on, but we'll have a chance to comment on those. We'll work with the members on reflecting your input and anything that locally we should consider about those projects as we comment on them. And then also check in the Commonwealth Financing Authority page. they had scrapped, canceled their November board meeting, but I found on their website, they do have a meeting that's scheduled now for next week on the 28th. So our assumption is that's when the DPD or the Commonwealth Finance Authority multimodal project will be approved. So hopefully we'll see that occur, and we'll work to share that announcement with the members, ahead of the March meeting, so you can take a look at that for any local projects approved in your area. And then sometimes those are connected to other PennDOT multimodal projects as well. And then page 35, I wanted to know under PennDOT Connects, I think most everyone in the room and those online are probably familiar with that process, but what that entails for the TIP update with the PennDOT Connects forums and considering local issues and talking about bicycle pedestrian or stormwater, emergency response issues related to the TIP project. There's also the technical assistance through PennDOT Connects that we've promoted, and several communities have taken advantage of that and had the expert panel team come together on site and provide some recommendations for transportation or land use issues. But statewide, there's a strategic kind of planning group that's been formed. The first meeting will be next week. And so we'll start to shape that process and see how PennDOT Connect maybe overall kind of the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and then how it can be more effective in the future. So if those of you that have used it for studies, and I know we've taken advantage of the supplemental studies, like in Steve's area for Hogan Boulevard, like Ted study, if there's ideas, recommendations you have, feel free to share with us. And if there's more information coming together, we'll certainly share that with the MPO board on how PennDOT Connects may be transforming a little bit. Then on page 36, the trail demand story map report, just to highlight there, Bryce had shared that last time for the 23 to 24 cycle in Clinton County on the Blockhaven Levee Trail and the Bald Eagle Valley Trail. We promoted that on social media. We shared it with the members. We highlighted it. It was an online demonstration last time, but we like that trail demand story map. So please take a look at it if you have not. And just wanted to update you that was submitted a Transportation Research Board research article with Michelle Byler from Bucknell University here several months back, working through the editorial process. It should be published probably in the April to June quarter. So we'll be in that major nationwide publication talking about our bicycle pedestrian count program and the benefits of it. So we're pleased with that. And then just to note, the 6 traffic kilometers are now up in Columbia and Montour County trails. Then the 2 new Eco Counter trail units are on the Bloomsburg Area Recreational Trail within Columbia County as well. So these are on the Manly Robbins Trail in Montour County, also Hopewell Park. And then we have the Bloomsburg Recreational Trail, as I mentioned, the Berwick Test Track Trail, and then the Columbia County Rail Trail or Bikeway. So we'll have more data and we'll have another story map to be shared at the end of this year. And I just wanted to highlight, we did share the MPO newsletter this week. Hopefully those of you on our list received that. Sometimes check your spam filter programs if it's going into there. But news items, we had shared in that for the winter edition. And then our next edition probably will be coming out in the spring, maybe in April. But if there's things you want to see change with that, feel free to let us know at any time. Or if there's local initiatives or projects you want us to highlight or call out, we try to capture major news items and pull those in there in an easy way. And that they're pretty visual as well. That's the main staff report document. I wanted to touch on briefly page 39. We're just being a little bit more intentional about designing for the year, guest presentation to come before the MPO, and just other business so you can kind of entertain and expect when that'll come up beyond our standing business. So we wanted to provide that within the packet here. And call a couple things out. I spoke with John earlier. Sean had mentioned last time about the $5 fee for local youth funding and the benefits of that, and maybe for other counties to kind of hear, consider, take another look at it. And so we think that's certainly important, and we promoted that, and a lot of bang for the buck within Union County and Center County, Lycoming County and Mifflin County in our region. So we'll follow up and try and get a presentation on that, that everybody can hear how it's being used on the full MPO membership. from Union, Lycoming counties on their examples. And then Betsy Lockwood, we often hear from on the Appalachian Regional Commission local access roads. So she'll be able to come next time in March and give an update on that. Do her kind of solicitation if you have project ideas or concepts for access roads as well. I wanted to note there for the March meeting, something that came out of the last statewide transportation improvement program as a recommendation was for us to have a more formalized cooperative planning agreement, a best practice example that Justin and Mark Hogan at Central Office shared with us. So we're building that right now, initiated, and we'll look to have that approved at the March meeting and then get that executed with PennDOT and our transit operators. So just kind of formalize the process more in terms of what we're doing through that type of agreement. And hopefully the urban SIM model we've been talking about for scenario planning being finalized, validated, and calibrated with all the data and to be turned over to us and get us trained. We might be in a position to kind of demonstrate that tool in March. Then looking a little bit further out, you see other topics there, things that we kind of discussed with members or we thought would be timely. But feel free to interject, propose things that you want to hear about that we're not identifying in some guest presentations throughout the remainder of the year. Some of these are contingent on, being finalized in some respects and able to be shared with the members, so they might change. This is just a tentative work plan. But feel free to let us know if you have ideas or other suggestions of what you want to hear about, what you think will be meaningful to you as the MPO membership. But I'll just touch on private July. I know Don's already reached out to Lauren Brighton at Focus Central PA. So those of you that are connected to that group or industrial development that she works on, if there's things you want to hear specifically in that vein, feel free to let us know as well. So any questions, comments on that kind of work plan or guest presentations that we're kind of queuing up or thinking about? Okay, otherwise in this section, typically things Kristen extracts and pulls together the highway occupancy permit applications and revisions and the traffic impact study scoping forms. So you'll see those tables for those of you that are not registered or logged in to access those within the packet here in this section. And then we have our typical transportation alternative center side project updates and status reports as well. And I'll just ask Steve, if it's okay, the Bald Eagle Valley Trail, we know that's in the construction, but if there are any kind of status reports or updates do you have on that phase 5 aspect?
Yeah, they shut down for winter. They're essentially done. They need to do a little bit of paving for the switchback ramps. They were able to reallocate some of the funds to pave the other side of Kennedy Crossing. It's a little rough. And this spring, we've extended Marshall Design Group's inspection contract, basically finish the paving and restore vegetation. Then they're done.
Great, thank you. Wonderful progress there. We're glad to see that one open up, and we'll have to get some new project photos to update for our library and everything. And it's great, just the incremental progress in what you've been building there is excellent. So, and eventually that connection to the Pine Creek Rail Trail, that'll be great. Thank you, Steve. Any other updates from either PennDOT District or Central Office on any of the TA set aside projects that you'd like to cover?
None at this time, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks. So the last item we'll touch on here is page 45 of the packet. That's our strategic plan. If you recall, we had adopted that last year, and we started to put together this kind of performance progress reporting table and highlighting which of the notes columns things that are being worked on. So we have a couple here that are bold, italicized. If you look at those in your printout, which is kind of small print, understand that, but the electronic version much easier to follow along. So why don't you note a couple here, page 46, just to look for member suggestions on those community regional organizational events that you think are worthwhile for us as MPO staff to maybe attend or share some information at. We started to populate a table of like major, ongoing, recurring, countywide meetings or regional meetings. And it's just opportunities that as they tie into the major plan update, maybe we can go share information, have a table or other things like that. So if you have suggestions on those, feel free to let us know, whether like a county convention or a regular meeting, important festivals or seminars or anything that occurs within your regions. We'll try to build that out and then we can coordinate on specifics as they come together in the future. But that's one thing. And then also looking at the codes, it's PSE, so attend other MPO meetings to observe their best planning practices. We as staff regularly hit the Waynesburg MPO meeting. We don't always hit our adjacent Center County or Harrisburg MPOs meetings, but we have that as something for us to get a little bit more plugged into. And we always appreciate Lackawanna and Luzerne and Rob. Staff there usually join our meetings, our peers at the Luzerne MPO. So we'll try to do that, and we could also share those links as we get the meeting information to members if you want to see how they conduct business or their ideas or the things that come up there. You see us emulate, you can do that. Towards the bottom there, IPA 3, workshops, board members, provide topics or venues that you'd like us to look at or consider there as well. Please feel free to do that anytime and throughout the year. And then the next one, the topical committees. Just the reminder, we are connected to a lot of the nationwide transportation groups and hitting their work groups and subcommittees and a lot of good informational items and tools that we're bringing to the table. But if there's things that you want more information on that, feel free to let us know. We can share those or stuff that you're getting from some of the things you belong to or get different seminars or presentations, webinars that you're heading. Feel free to let us know on those. And then just the update on page 57. Sponsoring at least one project funding workshop per year was kind of a target that we had. We had supported some of these in the past at individual counties, or sometimes it just comes up as a natural organic thing. But if any of you really want to see a funding workshop, maybe it's overall and you want a transportation piece, feel free to let us know. We're glad to partner with you on that and share information. So if you're looking at a funding workshop at some point in the year, maybe pull together other departments in SEDA COG and can fulfill that sometime this year. And then toward the bottom of page 47, just the other training opportunities. Like it kind of relates to the prior work plan. Just if there's stuff you want to hear about, we can bring it, get a guest presenter at an MPO meeting and carve out that time for training that you want to see held or conducted. And finally, page 48, the multimodal trips or movements. We had talked about before, maybe there's a MPO meeting that we take off site and there's a really capstone project. Maybe we gather around that as part of an MPO meeting and have a tour, or we could schedule a special standalone meeting. But if you have ideas on kind of those special projects, or if you're just out and using public transportation or railroad excursions or things like that, whatever it may be, feel free to identify those or share information with us, and we can consider that in the future as well. There's a lot of updates within there, things that we're hitting and reporting on. If you have questions, just let us know at any time. But we're trying to act on that and make sure it's a strategic plan that we're really following through on and reporting on for members. Any questions on any of the staff reporting items? Thanks. We're into Kristen's going to do an introduction for item G we're up to now with the Central Regional Operations Plan.
Sure. So we're joined virtually today by Frank Cavateo, who is the manager of the TSMO planning and funding at PennDOT's Bureau of Operations, which is out of central office. In this role, he's been instrumental in overseeing the development and update of the Regional Operations Plan, or ROP, as you'll hear it called. And SEDA COG's MPO, we're located within the central region, which encompasses districts 2, 3, and 9. And that current ROP is being updated and is in the final stages of that. So we've asked Frank to join us today to share an update on that process and progress on the update, as well as what the ROP entails, such as incident management, traffic management, safety, and things like that, and how it really informs how our planning puts along here at the MPO. And I believe we also have Jim Roman and Joe Lyons, who are from District 2 and 3 respectively, which they can provide some additional context on some more local projects and how the ROP interacts with regional operations and making sure that traffic continues to flow smoothly and efficiently through our region. So I'll turn it over to Frank.
And Frank, if you're able to hit the screen share, if that bogs down at all for you, let us know. We can share the presentation. Great, thank you. And then if you've not unmuted, Frank, please unmute.
And I needed to do that. Thanks for the reminder. Sorry. So thank you for the introduction and inviting us here today. As Kristen pointed out, I also have Jim Roman and Joe Lyons. They've been very instrumental in development of not only the ROP that we're doing right now, but the previous one that has all the current projects. And today I'm going to talk to you about, as she pointed out, TSMO, what it is, how the ROP affects your region, and what the projects are that we have listed, potential funding sources, and how we're going to move forward with everything. So just some overview of what's going on with TSMO. So TSMO is Transportation Systems Management Operations. It's basically a way to try to add reliability, talk about mobility, and everything we can do to get ourselves out of congestion as much as possible. That's our vision, is the less congested, more reliable network. And also, falling in with PennDOT, just moving people from A to B as efficiently as possible. So this is an idea of what everybody perceives that we're doing at PennDOT. We plan, we design, construct, maintain, and then we operate. But really, from our perspective, we're kind of in the shadows in terms of operation. We really haven't fully grasped the capability of what it could do. So we've struggled with trying to promote operations with the other 4 areas of PennDOT. What we'd love to do is to get operations in there, as an equal partner, and just have TSMO flow from the very beginning to the very end, because it is critical. You've probably heard the saying before that we can't build our way out of congestion. So we got to try to figure out new tools and new applications to make things better for us. So this process has actually been going on for a little while. We started with the framework in our ideas for the TSMO guidebooks back in 2018. The guidebooks are our ideas of operation manuals that basically will mimic what is happening for the DMs. So we've set up 5 guidebooks. First one is planning, design, construction, maintenance, and operation. And as you can see, we've gone through over the last few years to get those things updated. We've also done a ROP. And then this past year, we actually had our first TSMO Summit, which was a very great event. We got a lot out of it. I'm going to say one of the highlights from this was we had invited planning partners, our internal traffic operations people, and also PennDOT design and construction. And I think the most surprising thing out of our planning group was that the people who knew the least about TSMO and what we're trying to do were our own design and construction personnel. So, because we've been very interactive with the program center, talking about TSMO and ROPS the last 5 years, I guess the word just hasn't trickled upwards from the traffic group to maintenance and construction for us. So that's our goal, is to try to get that out with all of these publications that we have, and in with the program plan. So why is TSMO important? As I said, congestion is a major problem. Just annually out there, you're looking at 100 billion vehicle miles traveled, and that's a lot. It's also talking about the delays we have out there, the wasted fuel, which goes back to carbon reduction plan, and also just what is it costing the average driver? I mean, you're looking at $730 per driver, and that number has actually gone up a little bit behind on this thing here. So the feds came up with this congestion pie chart probably a decade ago to talk about how congestion is happening and break it down into recurring versus non-recurring. And our performance metrics section has actually taken this and broken it down into how that can relate to PennDOT and specifically right now for the central region to show you what we're doing. So as you can see on here, and my mouse is not working, apologize. So most of the congestion in your area is this in here. You've got 30% that's on the roadways, but you've got a big percentage here. We're talking about crash, minor crashes, and also other incidents. So these are non-recurring. So that's really where we're getting the biggest problem. So we can, even if when we're trying to build things, we have incidents, crashes that are going to happen without us really knowing about it. And that's not even really taking into consideration everything that happens in the weather, and especially in your region with what's going on I-80, a frequent occurrence, especially in the winter with shutdowns and specific delays. When you start to compare us against the country, we're actually a little bit, I'd say we're higher in just about every category of what's going on there compared to the national average. When you're talking about the delays, congestion, and the fuel consumption. And that goes for not only the urban areas, but for rural areas too. This next slide is just showing you something that our, again, performance metrics section put up just to see how we're trying to determine different areas and how they can best analyze, in terms of incident, recurrence, how to get the people out there, the first responders out there, how to clear it up, and then get the just perform an overall action to determine, did we do everything right? And our goal, of course, is to shorten this time frame as much as possible, thereby reducing congestion and overall delays. So where does this lead us? We have the ROP, which is the Regional Operations Plan. The ROP is something we developed to ask everybody to have a list of traffic operations oriented projects. We look at this as a subset of the TIP, that if there's something that's traffic operations oriented and you want it to be on a TIP, it needs to be on the ROP first. Now, this is mostly for, smaller standalone projects. We're not talking about, of course, reconstruction of I-80 or things like that. But if there's something where you want to put in new devices, we're talking incident management, we want to make sure it's on a ROP, because if it's on a ROP, we will do what we can to help with potential funding sources. If it's not on a ROP, we don't know about it, and somebody comes to us a little later, that's a little more difficult to try to get funding for that. Not to say that once the ROP is developed, there still is a process to add projects between the updates. So just a couple of things here. I've listed in the next couple slides why we're actually doing this to follow the federal 23 CFR, other reasons, the prioritization, the funding, and also, to me, the biggest is that last bullet point on this slide is the managing of the TSMO operations O&M. This is one of my primary functions in central office. I have a fixed appropriation that is dedicated towards operations. As Jim and Joe can attest, this money gets smaller and smaller every year with increasing costs. So I have a fixed budget of $20 million. Right now, almost 50% of that is dedicated to personnel, and that's for the people in each of the 4 RTMCs. For 24/7 operations. It also pays for our construction inspectors when they're out there for an ITS or operations project. And then it pays for our utilities and the power that go to all the ITS devices. And finally, the last segment of that is actually any of our maintenance contracts. And unfortunately, with the ever increasing costs going on and everything, I have less and less money to give to the districts to take care of existing devices And that also means I have less and less money to consider for future devices out there in the O&M as it comes along. Again, just another slide or two here about, the federal compliance and why we're doing this. We try to work as closely as possible with the FHWA when we're looking at different ideas and pushing TSMO. And I will say Dan Walston has been very critical in helping us do whatever we can for TSMO. And then final last slide about the compliance is just a table of listing of all the parts of 23 CFR 940 and how we're doing things with the ROP. And I did give the presentation to Kristen, so this is available, and if you have questions related to specifically, you can always reach out to me afterwards. So the ROP itself is set up as dictated in one of our guidebooks, Guidebook 1, Planning, specifically in Chapter 3. It tells how a region is supposed to look at the ROP, develop it, put it together, and then share it with everybody so we know what's going on. And also, last part of that is federal compliance. So the ROPs are broken down, and we've primarily focused on the PennDOT core networks. As you can see, these are the interstates and interstate lookalikes. You will notice that down in the bottom section, the turnpike, of course, is not included because that's not one of our roadways. But for your area, primary focus, of course, is on I-80 and then the 11 and 15 corridor, along with 180, et cetera. So how does this translate into what we're doing with the ROP? So as mentioned before, we're looking at ways to reduce, alleviate congestion. And that's talking about, the recurring congestion, the non-recurring congestion, et cetera. And as I pointed out earlier, a lot of the congestion that we're dealing with, of course, is unplanned, non-recurring. So we've broken that up into these three primary categories and then the two subsections in each of those. And this is what we're looking at. So when we develop the ROP, the process is to look at maps based on congestion, and we validate these maps, and that's what we do with the group. So we go out with the districts. So with the central regions, we're looking at districts 2, 3, 9, and 10. We visit each district individually along with the planning partners associated with that district. And we present to them different maps based on the congestion in the area. Step 1 is to validate the congestion. Step 2 is then to start to look at potential TSMO solutions that can reduce that congestion. And then step 3 is to develop the list for those projects. And then finally, we try to prioritize. Now, when I say prioritize, we're not going a specific ranking from 1 to 50. We found that that's created problems, and it always didn't line up with what funding was available. So project number 1 might have been a high priority, high cost, but however, we were able to find funds to do something, low hanging fruit. Maybe that was a project number 9 or 10. So we now just focus on either doing standard priority or high priority. So this slide here is pretty much the maps that we have presented to everybody. And along with the other TSMO section who deals with the daily operations and the performance section, they've developed these for us based on the highest areas with unverified congestion. And these are the base maps that we've gone to each of your regions, each of the planning partners in the districts to verify what is happening out there. And again, it's a pretty standard process. We've developed it over time, and it seems to be working well. And right here, this map is showing statewide of the highest 10 areas for each of the districts. As you can see, totally to be expected, your highest congestion area right there, Selinsgrove, going up 1115. So we'll do what we can for this area. And also we have some things going on, of course, on I-80. This is a screenshot from one map, just showing the process, and again outlining, and I apologize because these colors are a little bit faint, on the different types of crashes reported out there and the different types of congestion, whether it be, because of road work, weather, again, unknown non-recurring events. Now, this is all available on one map and to everybody, and I was happy to see that you had shown earlier one of your slides was talking about all the projects you had listed in one map. So I'm glad we're using the same tools. That group has also helped us with the performance metrics in one map, developing the travel time index, the buffer index. And just to give you an idea, the easiest way to explain this is when you're doing your daily commute and you know based on congestion, it's going to take you 20 minutes to go somewhere, but then all of a sudden something happens and now you've got to allow for an extra 5 minutes. That is the buffer that you're allowing in. So it's not that the area has no congestion. It is for the corridor indicating you already know the congestion, but now the congestion is above and beyond what normally happens on your daily commute. So we're looking at all these different ways of congestion and trying to figure out how can we provide solutions to that. And this is what we have in what we call the TSMO toolbox. So based on the 3 primary, the 6 overall areas of congestion types, we have this slew of potential toolbox items and solutions that we can do that. The biggest one out there is probably, the using ITS devices. Everybody's familiar with that. But Kristen had mentioned it from the beginning, we're looking at incident management, integrated corridor management, the TIM teams. Many presentations have been done on that, and the TMCs. And I think we can all confirm that since the RTMCs have been up and operational 24/7, that it's helped a lot with everything that we're trying to do on a daily basis, and even with our long-term planning. So as I talked about, the ROP is a list of projects, and after we go through and we focus on what projects are attainable, and we're trying to use a 4-year cycle, again, to be similar to what the TIP is doing, we ask the districts and planning partners to develop a 1-pager for each of those things. And it's just some basic information. What's the time frame, the estimated cost. Because there's so many, we're looking anywhere from 50 to 70 projects every time we do this update. We don't want them to go into a full detail on the estimate. It's more of what is available or what is being used for ECMS. So anywhere, couple million, $500,000, et cetera. And then this just helps us to prioritize what's going on. And then they also list, potential ideas of what's happening here. And we have this for each and every one of the projects that we have going on in the ROP right now. Again, those narratives are just giving a brief description on what the problem is and the potential areas of solution we can go, whether it be the devices or some type of other TSMO priority. Now, the current ROP that we are in for District 2, 3, 9, and 10, the central ROP, has been going on since August. We had anticipated being done by the end of the year. However, we had some delays with everything that was going on. So we're now reevaluating that, and we've extended our schedule to be completed by the end of February. And that's the time we'll get this out to back to the stakeholders and their steering committee to evaluate, finalize, and then share with all the planning partners. So the next part I really wanted to talk about was the list of the actual ROP projects. So again, this list, and I apologize, it's kind of small. This list is for the current ROP that was developed in 2018 and then updated in 2021. As you can see, the initial part, we had 42 projects that came through, and then we updated it when we did the update in 2015, and another 15 projects came through. Now, what does that mean for your area? Out of those 50-some projects, you have these 8 projects listed right here. One is in construction, the other one's in design, and all the rest there's partial progress, excuse me. So we're moving slowly. Again, it all comes down to when funding is available. That's not always easy to manage. My program itself, beyond the 20 million that I have for the O&M, does not really have a fixed capital budget that can help out I have a small line item on the interstate tip of $3 million. If a project is already existing and ITS devices are slated or need to be added, I have some small funding pot that I can help the districts in to add a device or two. But it's nothing big that will actually fund, an individual project. So with the process that we're under with the current ROP, you've got these projects here that have been added. And as you've shown, you're looking at 11 projects out of the entire region. So out of 4 districts and how many planning partners, this isn't too bad to have 11 projects that we have on the list. So it's nice that we're focusing on what needs to be done. We're trying to be as realistic as possible. And again, we're looking at something that we can accomplish, if possible, within a 4-year period. So one of the things we've been trying to do with this version of the ROP was to do a before and after analysis, because again, we're really into the being data driven and to be able to measure everything we're doing. We found that this is a little more challenging than anticipated. Again, with starting with a list of 50 to 70 projects, it's a little difficult to do a before study on everyone if you don't know that project is actually going to be selected within the next 4 years or when it's going to be completed. And on the tail end of that also, when a project is actually completed, now we're trying to look at the funds and the study we can go out and to do check the actual performance. Our group is actually able to get some data and we can look at the overall reduced congestion using INREX, but we can't at this time pinpoint it to any specific solution that was applied to say this is the best one. Although we know that when things run a lot better with the cameras out there, the TSMO tools that are applied, the incident management, etc. And I have down here listed the website for our other group. If there's any questions about INREX, 511 postings, etc., you can reach out to them. Scott Benedict is the contact person. So wrapping up, I had mentioned we have very limited funding. Mine is dedicated to O&M. I have the small line item on the interstate tip. But back in 2019, we actually, with the Program Center, developed the TSMO Funding Initiative, the TFI. And that started out as a program, a 2-year program of $5 million per year with a 50-50 match. When we have an effort that is agreed upon between the district traffic unit, district planning group, and the planning partner, that goes through an application process. We review the application and we're able to award some money. So in 2021, just for the central region, we had 1.8. 23 went down to 1.4. The reason being is 21, there were very few districts and planning partners actually put in. So we were able to award a lot more to the central region. In 23, the word had gotten out by then, so a lot more people put in. So we didn't give award as much to this region. We're trying to be as equitable as possible and share it as best we can statewide. In 2025, we went from a 10 million 2-year program to a 20 million 2-year program with the help of the CRP funds. However, this puts some restrictions on us and some challenges that we had not encountered, because once we started using the CRP funds, a lot more requirements were needed for an applicant to be approved using CRP versus the STIP funds that we were using previously that were 100% state. So we've had challenges. It's been a trying time, and I'm sure all of you have also had some initial challenges with CRP, and we're working the best as we can. However, I will say that the region actually did get increase in the overall, and out of this 2.1 million for the central region, there is one project that was submitted from SEDA COG for 1 million. So basically, you're getting half of the award we did for 2025 for this entire region, and that was for a project on I-80. I'm happy to announce that we're working with the Program Center to release the next round of TSMO funding. The application process will begin in May. We'll receive applications till roughly September. We'll review them internally and along with the FHWA, so that we're looking to have an announcement by December of 25 to align with the TIP update, and then we can announce all the awards by January of 2026, and then everybody can get moving on what they need. So went through that a little quickly. Apologize. Again, I'll put this out there for Jim or Joe if they have anything that they want to add to this, but my information is up there. Please don't give me a call. Hesitate to give me a call. I want to say this as a final comment for me before any questions. I'm a Pittsburgh native, been in Harrisburg for 25 years now, but my wife is from Shamokin. My mother-in-law visits us frequently. She loves to go through Sealands Grove. She won't take 81. So anything I can do to make her happy, to make my wife's family happy, trust me, I'm on your side when you're trying to get some things done in this area. So let me know, and we'll do what we can. So now we'll open up to Jim and Joe if they want to add any comments before any questions.
Frank, I think you did a good job. I don't really have anything to add, but certainly if anybody has any questions, like Frank mentioned that project that's coming up here soon. We actually have a meeting Monday to go over scope with our project manager. It's an integrated corridor management project between exits 173 and 185 on Interstate 80. We have a combination of CCTVs, changeable message signs, and connected traffic signals in that project. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions if anybody has about that project, or any questions with the Regional Traffic Management Center, or any other projects you'd like to talk about, or technology along the roads like Frank mentioned.
Yeah, Frank, I think you did a great job, and you hit all the points as far as what I was looking to see or wanted to cover here. And I just want to open up, you said about the TSMO funding initiative opening up in May. If anyone from SEDA COG or Steve Herman, if you want to get together and hash out some of these potential projects for any funding, I'd be happy to meet with you and discuss that.
And I will add that when we were in District 3 reviewing the current ROP list, we did tell Chris that there was some still funding available on the current TFI. And, you know, we solicit from the districts and the planning partners, if they have something small and I've got some money available, I would still entertain to do what we can. So just because our application period is closed, depending on, and as you all know, project delivery dates slide, that frees up available funding for me. And what I'll do is actually just start with the districts or planning partners that may not have submitted many, if any at all, projects, and try to, again, distribute those funds as equitable as possible to get them out there. So Chris, I'll throw that back out there. I think we had talked about a project and we were still looking to see, you know, what was going on. So, but I think I still do have a little bit of funding available under the current 25 round before we even go to the next round. So.
Great, thank you, Frank. Thanks, Jim and Jeff. And yeah, it's quite impressive what you squeeze and maximize the value of limited funding here for operations and really adjusting, you know, congestion and safety issues, you know, throughout the entire state. So thanks for all your hard work on this, and we'll be glad to share when it's finalized the Central Region report update here with all the members and get that link off to folks. But there's no official, I guess, action or approval needed from each of the planning partners on the ROP, though, right? It's just more of an informational item and to be used for planning and programming.
I'll let Jim comment on this, but I can know when we did the first round back in 2018, Denny actually did go to many of the planning partner meetings to present the ROP and allow them, if they wanted to, officially adopt it. It's not required, but I would say I think everybody he visited or presented to did adopt it in their meeting minutes.
great. Yeah, and then come the March meeting, we could do that if desired by all the parties, and really appreciate this to kind of prime the pump with everybody, get you know, all on a level playing field with the ROP and the types of projects that are being looked at, what data is being analyzed and everything. So yeah, we could certainly do that at the March meeting then once it's finalized and shared.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Any questions from anyone, types of data or any projects, or if there's other things you're hearing from locally, you know, congestion wise, or if there's any intelligent transportation system devices you think would be worthwhile in your region?
And let me throw this out there, and I had mentioned it before, but if you go into one map, and if hopefully you're familiar with it, there is a specific TSMO layer, and under that layer, you can actually pull up the ROP. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to sharing and show you real quickly, if you don't mind.
Thanks.
There we go. So here is the ROP layer in one map currently. I'm assuming you can see that.
Yes.
Okay, and those highlighted in red are all the projects that are listed from the existing ROP. We do this because you can easily overlay it with TIP or future TIP projects. You can overlay it with existing ITS devices. Also, there's some crash data that could be overlaid with. I think that's been restricted a little bit. But we've tried to do something that's very easy for us and the planning partners to utilize, and knowing that you had already been using one map, we felt this was the best tool that's out there. So again, if you're looking for something, the ROPs are listed out there. You can filter it any way you want. There's a lot of information if you just look for TSMO. So.
Thank you. Any additional
Sure.
person?
Yeah, I've been engaged in some of these meetings with the ROP and the TSMO Summit, and it's great to see PennDOT moving in this direction to get us, you know, like Frank said, we can't build our way out of congestion in a lot of areas. So making it run more efficiently through the TMC it's a really interesting place to visit if you ever get a chance to go to District 2 there in Clearfield. How they're able to remotely see, you know, there was a traffic accident on Interstate 80 at this location, and then how they can reroute folks efficiently, and in some cases, make sure that the traffic signals in that detour area are running efficiently so that traffic doesn't get backed up and cause additional problems. And obviously, we've all seen, I think, the variable speed limit signs that have been going out, and particularly in the winter months here, how those change based on the winter conditions. So I think it's great to see these technologies come to our region and how they can really help us move efficiently through the system. So I appreciate Frank and Jim and Joe for joining us on this, and it was great information. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Next on the agenda.
Sure. So the next item on the agenda is the federal fiscal year 2024 obligated projects report. This is a requirement of the IIJA that the MPO publishes a list of the annual projects that were obligated in this particular instance, October 1st of 2023 through September 30th of 2024. And so that plan is out there. It has been published, and during that year, the MPO has 76 obligated projects worth $136,460,679. So that plan does have a map available as well of where those locations are, and then the basic form from the tip that shows just the items that were allocated during the federal fiscal year.
Might as well.
Did anybody have any questions on that in particular? There's repeatable on that.
Yes.
Okay. So that's out there for your information. And then Item I is the long-range transportation plan update. The presentation there, Brian.
Share. You should be, yep, seeing it connect here, Brian.
The audio works better than last. You're fine.
Very good. Good morning, everyone. Just a brief update on some of the work that the project team has been involved in on the updated long-range transportation plan. Really good timing coming out of the presentation that Frank gave on the regional operations plan. We consider those one of those functional plans, along with so many others that really help inform, the overall directions of the LRTP. A number of things we're going to be updating you on this morning, just briefly. I know we talked at the last meeting about work that we had done on the regional listening sessions, stakeholder interviews. I think really our main challenge coming up here in the next couple of weeks is really taking all of the output that we heard through those meetings and really start identifying action strategies, or what are those action items that need to be included within the plan. I know there's always a lot of interest on the projects that are included in the LRTP, but I really look at things like the action strategies as being equally important, because those are the things that are really going to be guiding the MPO over the next 4 or 5 years. As you work together with PennDOT and FHWA on your future work programs, the long-range transportation plan is really going to be a helpful guide to the MPO and really helping to identify what are the specific things that you want the MPO and the MPO staff to be working on over the near term. So we're going to be covering a few points on that. And Steve, maybe if we go to the next slide. I know Morgan is with us. She's online here.
There you go.
And Morgan's been doing a lot of work with developing a web map of the public survey that was done last year. And we've asked Morgan if she could just kind of unveil that today and give everyone an overview of the information that came out of the public survey and how that looks spatially on the web map. So Morgan?
Yeah, I stole the screen. Can you see it, the map?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, like Brian said, the input received from the MetroQuest survey, we added it to this web mapping application that breaks down the survey responses by specific transportation mode. And from that survey, they were able to leave comments about each of their pins. So when you scroll down, you can click on each of these pins. Some people provided descriptions, many others didn't, but they were able to select a specific issue or need as they drop these pins. So this one, there's a trail connection need here in this area for that one. Let me try to find one with so here's where the description would display. You have the county displays there and what type of issue they're describing. So drivers wave me on when I have to stop sign on the trail. So that's one. But you can kind of just keep scrolling through these in heavily pinned areas. See the different types of issues in each of the counties as well. So but there are some pins that are dropped outside of the region. Most of them I left in there. There's like this pin down here in Harrisburg is a good example. Transportation to airport and Amtrak. Seems like that's a need for the area. So they wanted to drop it on where they were needing to go using public transportation. So if you see some pins outside the map, that's most likely a connection to the region. Does anybody have any questions or initial thoughts?
We were without Bryce Buck. We were going to kind of take that on, but fortunately, the consultant team, they were able to do this and follows suit with what we typically see from the Street Transportation Commission, and we can get a look at all these different concentration areas and compare, over time. So it's definitely helpful. So thanks for putting this together beyond just looking at a tabular format for some of these project elements.
Yeah. And I have this info box pops up first if we wanted to make it public. Talks a little bit about the LRTP, what this what the application is and how this feedback's going to be used, and then also it redirects them to the project website. So that's just a little info when you first open the page. I forgot to mention that. Okay.
This is really a
Brian, I
first
can.
step. Yes, Morgan?
I was going to say, do you want me to throw the screen back over to you?
Unless anyone had any other questions or comments on the map, on the web map.
Steve, this is Bob Stout. I can't find this one in the packet. Is there a link to this map in there that we can connect to this?
This would be in the PowerPoint presentations link that was in there earlier. But when we do the ticker after today, we'll also highlight it there as well. And so that link should be clickable, I think, within the PDF of this PowerPoint.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Sure.
It'll be on the third
Okay.
slide. Link there.
And I just
And Morgan,
dropped it.
thank you, Morgan.
Thank you, Morgan.
Thanks again, Morgan. And for everyone else, this is really the first step of the project identification process. So I think this is going to be a good resource for not only the MPO, but also for those of you who are county planning directors. If you're involved in say comprehensive planning at the county level or municipal initiatives that you have underway from a planning standpoint, this will be a good reference. But it's also going to be something that's going to complement additional data that's going to be coming out over the forthcoming STC survey that Steve mentioned a little bit ago. So one of the challenges that we're going to have going forward is really combing through all of the project suggestions, transportation needs that the public identified, and really identifying what are the top priorities for the region going forward from a long range perspective. Okay. All right, so from there, just highlight the stakeholder interviews. I know some of not, many of you were involved in the stakeholder interviews that our team conducted back in late November, early December. Again, that really complemented the work that's done with the listening sessions and the district strategy day events that we had with districts 2 and 3, which were very informative. And so from there, again, our primary challenge now in the next couple of weeks is beginning to identify what are the action strategies that are needed for the long range plan. And we are going to be using the federal planning factors as a way of organizing all of that information. So just as a refresher, there are a total of 10 federal planning factors that the MPO is responsible to plan for. So again, we're going to be using that as an organizing principle for this. We're going to be working with the MPO staff as well as our project steering committee to identify a series of action items under each one of these areas. Maybe have 3 or 4 under each one of these, beginning with supporting the economic vitality of the region, planning for things like strategic additions to roadway capacity through CSVT, high-speed interchange with 99 and Interstate 80, I-99, as it's eventually designated through Clinton County. Those are all things that we heard about through the listening sessions that the MPO is going to need to be planning for. Others on the screen there, safety and security. We're going to be drawing from other good planning work that the MPO has done in recent years in Danville, the Route 522 corridor, and elsewhere. Accessibility and mobility, protecting and enhancing the environment. So here again, we're going to be drawing on the work that SEDA COG did with EVs, the EV project that Dawn led here some time ago. How do we use CRP funding? Now, there's limited funding, but the funding we do receive, how should it be programmed within the region? Then on the next slide, we have numbers 6 through 10, looking at things like integration and connectivity of the transportation system. We've talked about things like the need for improved pedestrian connectivity to the Amtrak station there in Lewistown. Things like that. Number 7 is a big one coming out of the ROP presentation we just heard, looking at things like system management and operations. This is really where the MPO can get the biggest bang for its buck, looking at improvements in these areas. And we believe there needs to be a strong tie-in between the ROP and the LRTP. So we're going to be looking closely at projects and initiatives coming out of that need to be reflected within the LRTP. Other things you see there, system preservation, resiliency and reliability. Mark spoke earlier about things like slope stability, the need for slide repairs throughout the region. So we're going to be looking at things like that. And then a new area involves that of travel and tourism. This is a new area of emphasis that FHWA has been pushing. Looking at things like wayfinding. We heard from many who talked about the need for better wayfinding signage throughout the region to direct visitors to the region's tourist destinations. Our next steps include these. You see here on the screen, we have our next steering committee meeting coming up on, I think it's on Wednesday. Kristen, we just sent materials to you this morning, so they can be attached to the meeting invitation for those of you who are on the steering committee. Take a look at those files. They will include more detailed information from what you saw on this morning's presentation. But again, our main work with the steering committee next week is going to be taking a deeper dive on the proposed recommendations or action strategies within the plan. Other things that are underway include the development of the background profile for the plan, review of functional classification, also the revenue forecast. Steve mentioned a little bit ago that the financial guidance work group just kicked off here recently. So that's going to be a big challenge for us, forecasting the amount of revenue that the MPO could expect to receive over the life of the plan. There's been a tremendous amount of investments that have been made within the MPO region. Is that going to be sustained? What does that mean over the longer term? New administration in Washington. Conventional wisdom is that funding levels are probably going to stay the same, if not increase, but priorities are certainly going to be changing across the various programs. We might see less emphasis on things like public transit or on electric vehicles, things like that. So it's something that as an MPO, we're going to have to be monitoring and watching for. And then finally, I'll just close out with a quick word on the STC survey that's going to be coming out. The STC meets at the end of February, at which time the program center is going to be releasing their survey as part of the biennial program update. That's going to be released on March 3rd. It's going to run through April. So again, it'll be another opportunity for the MPO to use another resource to identify what public preferences are for transportation with regard to policy as well as projects. So we're going to be working closely with the program center on the outcomes of the survey, using that output for the SEDA COG MPO long-range plan update. I think that's all I had for now. We'll have more detailed updates for you at future meetings, but that's kind of a snapshot of what the team is working on here in the near term.
Thank you, Brian. And I want to thank everybody that participated in the steering committee meeting or the stakeholder interviews, and participated in listening sessions. We really appreciate it. I shared the survey, get that out to as many folks as possible. I really appreciate it. That input, it's very important. Forward.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Kristen. If there's no comments, certainly more to come. And thank you to all those on the steering committee to meet next week. We're up to item J, and that's Donna gave us an update on goings on and the uncertainty related to the NETI community charging program and our EV charging station.
Yep, Steve said you have 30 seconds to talk about it. So, this all has certainly been in the media here over the last week, and things are changing so fast, which will continue to be the case in the transportation arena in general, as Brian just said. But the EV situation seems to have risen to the top of the list, and we're all going to be seeing what happens here over the next few months on what gets changed or defined or attempted to be changed. I was thinking for this year for our meetings with everything in transportation that is going to be looked at, we may want to consider installing some seat belts on these chairs. Might be a good idea. But stay tuned is kind of the watchword right now. There was a meeting of the planning partners earlier this week, and Derek Herman is the lead for the program, the NEPI program down in PennDOT, and is pretty much expected. He essentially said, stay tuned. We'll let you know what's going on. There's going to be a lot to be determined yet about the future of electric vehicles and charging stations as in terms of funding in Pennsylvania. So I think our best way to proceed right now is to assume that we're still going to be able to pursue these initiatives until told otherwise. Things may not happen very quickly about being told otherwise for various reasons. I think we've all been following a lot of this. But just in general, we have a few things going on over the next few months that we are hopefully still going to be proceeding with. We'll be releasing at some point here a survey for general public for collecting information about potential new EV charging stations. So it'll probably look a lot like what you saw from the LRTP, where people are able to submit comments and put pins on locations. What we need to determine is how much of that will be focused on actual charging station information or locations, because we could collect information about EV use, which might also be helpful. We'll try to balance that a little bit. There's also the expectation that we'll be having probably a couple of public meetings on charging stations. Because we work with two districts, we probably will have one in one district and one in the other. That probably won't happen until March, but we'll be discussing that about the best way to move forward. And the PennDOT folks have also set a time frame of about June for us to submit what they're calling use cases about best places to put new charging stations, not only specific locations, but types of locations like shopping centers and grocery stores and hotels and those sort of things. So we've been working on that, but we'll see where that goes because there's some time to go by before that's all finished. So we're cautiously moving forward, and we'll certainly be letting people know what goes on from new guidance that might come out from the new administration. And stay tuned is the best two words I can say about it. So any questions about this?
Don, the present survey, gathering of information and so forth, were there funds obligated to that can't disappear? Or are we in that questionable state?
Yeah, I think to answer that on both sides would be yes, maybe.
Solid information. I love it. Thank you.
My own personal reading of the situation will be that I think a lot of this could be challenged by the current administration and will probably end up in legal reviews or submitted to the different courts. And as we all know, those move very fast. I think we know enough that at least at the federal level and at the state level, that there is the thought that a lot of these funds that have been obligated have been set up to make them very difficult to dislodge or take out of the program. But I think we're going to see a lot of effort and discussion and words come out about what they may or may not try to do. So more to come, and it probably won't be determined overnight.
It kind of is a typical dividing line a lot of times between the formula funds that go to the state, then we break out by planning partner region, and then those discretionary grant programs. So it seems, at least to me, those formula funds for EV charging stations to come to the state and have either a narrow or a broad usage for types of projects should be okay. It's just timelines, focused areas for those discretionary grants, like the carbon or the charging and fueling infrastructure program for one, those might be revised, but things are already in the current law. And as it works through congressional processes and these lawsuits, like Don mentioned, we're just waiting and assessing and getting more determinations, but proceed as if they'll be able to continue. We can hopefully implement the priority locations and submit to PennDOT for this community charging the facilities we think make the most sense, because PennDOT has submitted to the federal government their build out of the alternative fuels corridor, all those interstates, kind of interstate lookalikes like Frank was referencing. So now we can get in the specific communities and these other roadways and arterials that would qualify. So hopefully that approval will come, and then this program can carry on in the community charging aspect. But we'll continue to provide everyone with everything we can and give you as many updates. And as you know, the specific locations that are really rising to the forefront, let us know, and we can reflect that if it's not coming in through the surveying or the workshops themselves.
It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, but again, to
The
reinforce,
mandate may disappear, but the thing is, these vehicles exist.
Yeah.
They're still there. Our people still have them and need to travel.
it's a very tough.
I do have- This is Lisa from the town of Bloomsburg. I do have something to add real quick. I know we're doing a really large solar project, like $1.6 million for the town to be off the grid. And I was on the call with our engineers this morning, and like you guys are saying, with the unknown of the Inflation Reduction Act, they were giving out like 30% ITC credits, but anything above that, the additional credits of 10%, are now possibly jeopardized with, congressional acts that are going through. So, with that change, we might see some decrease with, even residential people buying those vehicles, because it sounds like those credits are going away.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it. Well, we're plugged in, as you know, the AMPO, the Nationwide Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations, and they had postponed their legislative priority briefing because of executive orders and such. But if there's more to come when they reschedule that, we'll try to get that out to you, immediately, so you're not waiting to the next MPO meeting as well.
No problem.
Thank you, Don. If there's no further questions, we're up to item K here within our main PowerPoint guide. Just references out to that separate PowerPoint, like we had shared on Tuesday, that master PDF of all the presentations. And I'll go ahead and try to use the stop sharing and then get that file open up to go through here now for the tip update. Screen share again. Hear that should be coming through live for everybody. So just a quick introductory item, since we'll be covering a lot more ground on this as we get throughout the year for the 2027 to 2030 tip. Big focus here, obviously, of all the county members and local governments as local bridges, because of the conditions of those, the ages, and just the difficulty to fully satisfy the needs on our local bridge network. So we always do biannually, like Brian referenced, in the odd number of years, individual meetings with each county, with your bridge engineers, with PennDOT district staff, school services, and talk through existing priorities list, what's on the tip, what's on your inspection schedules, other things that are emerging, where we hear sometimes specifically from individual municipalities on, again, the local bridge projects, and go through all that as we design and develop recommendations to work with each of the districts to try and carve out and program as many local bridges as we can, because of the immense needs that are out there and all the hard work that you're doing as counties and local governments on them. So again, that'd be our kind of main marching order, is to compile this local bridge priority listing as candidates for this tip update. And there's some data collection analysis off the run in tandem with that. We'll go through and validate, check with all district personnel on that, and obviously your bridge engineers and what they're finding on the ground, as situations change with these local bridges pretty rapidly. And then toward the fall, September, while the calendar on here as well, that's when our approval usually comes down to the tip update. So it's enough time to kind of factor it into final project listings that are being developed late in the year, and then moving through the draft tip process for next year. So just that timeline, Again, we're kind of presenting the topic here now, kicking off 2025. We'll look to pull each of the counties and your bridge engineers on good available dates you have to schedule those sessions, probably virtually for the most part, just because of efficiencies. But if you prefer that we come on site, we can certainly do that as well and arrange those kind of sessions. So leave that up to you and your discretion. But sometimes it can be hard to get all the district, personnel and everybody else's schedules aligned. And Justin, you'll be including those in central as well, obviously. So we'll look to schedule those throughout February, March, and April, but look for a poll coming out of today's meeting sometime, hopefully next week, of the data collection on the local bridge data and what we have from our kind of master, compilation and new data that's being submitted in the bridge management system and such. Typically, there's a survey that we would do of the members, later in the year, just to validate what's there, and then a lot of times that local contact or the land use situation to weigh in on that, and things like emergency response and detour impacts and such that maybe aren't clearly defined within the available databases. Certainly time for PennDOT review and evaluation and quality control, and then by SEDA COG with some of the GIS process there and going through the surveying, and then get built toward our September 19th meeting would be to hopefully get those rankings, approvals through the MPO, and then quickly off the PennDOT so we can kind of take a look what makes the most sense with the available funding for local bridges. So again, each meeting is flexible depending on if you want it in person, if there's other personnel that you want to have represented. Typically, it's obviously the county planning member, the voting member, your bridge engineer and ourselves. But if there's county commissioners you want engaged on those meetings, other kind of county maintenance staff or personnel or stakeholders or economic development groups, whatever the case may be, we're certainly open to that. And if there's other safety projects or other transportation, land use coordination type projects, those are all part of these. It's just the heavy emphasis usually on the local bridges with the difficulties there and meeting the needs that exist outside of TIP funding or other discretionary grants. So we'll pull you and then find available dates and see if there's other folks you'd like to have. But where we have your bridge engineers, we'll try and get them on the pool so you don't have to kind of shoot off separate emails and everything here, at least up front. When we get GIS position restaff, hopefully do something like a web map to guide the process for the projects that were submitted last time and any new ones that we know have emerged, and kind of get that out there on an ArcGIS online map that you can refer to. And again, some of the data features, obviously the county priority, usually the top 1 to 3, kind of elevates them a little bit in the scoring mechanism we've used over time. Other kind of key bridge information, whether it's posted, closed, weight restrictions, that exist for it, potential development, if there's zoning changes, if there's a lot of new commercial development going into an area, or future developments likely, to raise the importance of the local bridge, how many residents are impacted by it, or if it's getting further weight restricted or could be closed, the dead end, kind of detour routing concern, and impact other facilities if it's a e-walking and biking corridor, with other kind of activity centers or water and sewer, farm, commercial traffic or agricultural traffic impacts. Those are obviously very important as well. And the resiliency aspect, if the Gower critical bridge is one that frequently closes due to flooding, the main evacuation route, other things that are considered in the scoring process. So just kind of our checkpoints and what we build off of and have access to. And then again, the survey responses that we typically do through SurveyMonkey of each of the county members, and then also for town of Bloomsburg and Berwick Borough as well. So we've been developing a SharePoint list through our Office 365 tool here. We're going to further build that, but we hear from local governments directly in letters, sometimes things they get sent to the PennDOT district staff. In the interim period between a TIP update. So we're trying to build that, and we'll use that as we get into these meetings and obviously show them what you had submitted last time, each county as well. To kind of have that as our common base point. There'll be the SurveyMonkey, again, to go out, survey each of the county members, and then potentially probably use the decision lens again and go through that scoring and and get to the results for the prioritization process. And then just to throw out here kind of some improvement questions. If there's more information that you think you need that we haven't been providing or supplying to date, or just those of you that have been involved for several rounds, or maybe just the last round, if there's things you didn't like about the process you'd like us to take a look at revising, or just other ideas you have, feel free to share that anytime. But we'll hopefully here by early February get you a pool to set good dates that we can schedule the sessions to review the local ridge priorities for the TIP update and other just transportation concerns you have as we're going throughout this year and actively working to update the TIP projects. So we'll close there, the end of that slide and presentation. Just ask any questions, comments that anyone has about the process or where we're heading for the next step. So more to come, and we're getting toward the end here of our schedule on the agenda. Next one is just a verbal for Active Transportation Committee update. That's item L. And within the main PowerPoint, there's really not an update there of note. Slide 16. So we're still in the process of filling Bryce Brock's position since he had departed. We had conducted interviews, I think 6 or 7, and kind of running through the background checks and references for them. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have someone hired and able to fully support the GIS and mapping analysis needs, all our online maps that we've been developing of late, and then plug into certain transportation planning priorities, and hopefully the Active Transportation Committee as well. That's kind of been a role for that position. So hopefully we'll have more to report here soon and near term, and you can get introduced to a new staff member at the March meeting, hopefully. And then also just on the Active Transportation Committee, the next full committee is on February 12th. Those of you on that, you'll get the agenda in the packet. And if others want to participate, feel free to let us know. And then we have a couple work groups. There's the steering work group overall. They'll meet March 12th. And then the outreach and implementation work groups will meet in the early part of April. So last time Bryce gave us an update that the crash cards were approved by the full committee. So those were a nice product, and Vice Nicholas can carry them on them, or eventually we'll hopefully have an online survey they can fill out the form information that way as well once we get the position refilled. So we'll share more on that. And again, just to update that we're actually working on that counts program, and Lisa, follow up for you. I'll hopefully share since we have the remote access to the eco counter units, some of the preliminary data for the Bloomsburg area recreational trail. So hopefully here near term, I'll supply some maybe PDFs or snapshots of that for Lisa. And that's essentially all I had to cover on the Active Transportation Committee. Are there any questions or comments on that? Okay, I'll get back to the screen share here for everyone and just move us into item N. That's our typical member forum. We have some highlight items starting on page 50, things that we're tracking for the membership. The one there I'll just call out, I believe the top of that page 50 is the Rapid Transit Stop Hopper service. We talk about that regularly. And back in the fall, there was an expansion into Furry Furrow. We're glad to see that occur. And the usage has been pretty good, and the marketing promotion. But there's interest in an additional vehicle being available in the afternoon hours there. So as more of that comes together, we'll certainly share that with the group. And as you saw in our work plan, we'd like to have a rapid transit official speak to the full MPO probably in the fall months on how the stop hopper micro transit service is working, and you'll be able to field any questions or comments directly from MPO members. And I think that was the lone item. A lot of the other ones are just informational within that section of the interest items, things that are going on, some of the grant funding programs that are open currently, and wanted to open it up to members. If there's anything in your areas or anything for the good order that you'd like to share as part of the member forum today, please feel free.
Hey, Steve, this is John Brenneman from Senator Ward's office.
Hi, John.
Hi. Just want to make, if you're not already aware, you probably are, but I wanted to let the members and yourself know that Senator Judy Ward is the new chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee. Now, Nolan Ritchie, who was the executive director of that committee under Senator Langerhope, he has come over to Senator Ward's office. So he'd be the point of contact for you folks. If you had any questions or concerns, needed to talk to anybody concerning transportation committee issues. So just wanted to make you aware of that if you were not already. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, John, for that update. Was there someone else with a hand raised, or was that you, John?
Yeah, I think that was me.
Thank you. Any other discussion points or good of the order type of items to bring to the floor today? Okay, if not, we're right at our stopping point then. How's that for following our script of 11:30? Our next meeting will be March 28th, 2025 for the MPO board. And so if there's nothing else, we can entertain a motion to adjourn today. Great, we'll give you the first. We have a second. Second by Brad, thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Any abstentions or nays? I don't think so. So thanks everyone for joining us today. We'll see you in March for Informer.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I'll have to get a real gavel here, so you don't just have that virtual one. We'll close down shop. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.